Welcome to the Veriff Voices podcast, a collection of conversations with leaders from across the industry, sharing tips and valuable insight into shaping the future of online identity. This podcast is brought to you by the people of Veriff, rebuilding trust in the digital world. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Veriff Voices, the podcast where we talk about fraud, compliance, technology, and all things related to identity verification and returning trust to the internet. We've got a really interesting episode today, actually, and I think we'll probably be touching on, in one way or another, all of those things that I've just mentioned. Joining me to do so is Teddy Williams, who is a compliance officer at a company called VALR. VALR is a global crypto exchange. I believe they have more than 1 million customers now. I think 1,000 of those or so are corporate and institutional clients. And they operate globally and are one of the key players in the crypto space. So I'm really excited to sort of dig into this subject and how crypto intersects with all of those, the world of fraud and compliance and everything else that I just mentioned at the beginning there. So first of all, it stands for me to welcome Teddy to the episode. Teddy, welcome. Thanks for your time. I know you're an incredibly busy person. Do you just want to give us a quick intro as to who you are, a little bit about your role and your responsibilities at VALR as well?
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Chris. It's great to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast. My name is Teddy Williams. I'm a compliance officer at VALR, where I oversee transaction monitoring, investigations, and reporting. I joined VALR at a critical time and played a key role in building out the transaction monitoring and fraud prevention functions from the ground up, right? This was right around when the Financial Intelligence Center in South Africa released guidance recognizing cryptocurrency exchanges as an accountable institution under local AML legislation, right? So that moment marked a major shift, right, both for the industry and for VALR, and it's been onwards and upwards ever since, right? So you can imagine crypto is fast-paced, constantly evolving and full of nuance, right? So my mission at VALR has been to ensure we stay ahead of the regulatory curve while also actively combating financial crime through robust transaction monitoring and thorough investigations, right? So I work closely with internal teams to detect suspicious activity, identify emerging typologies, and implement effective controls, right? At the same time, I focus on broader risk mitigation strategies, making sure our compliance framework adapts to regulatory developments without compromising the agility and innovation VALR needs to remain competitive in such a dynamic space.
Interesting. I love it. Yeah. You really are at the forefront of this stuff. I feel like there's a lot of intersection between what happens in the crypto space, what happens in the identity verification space. I think there's a lot of overlap there, and we'll certainly get to that later on. Tell me a bit more about VALR then. What's the USP, if you like? Where do you operate globally? What's the sort of the elevator pitch for VALR, if you like? And what are some of the main trends in the crypto market that VALR exists to sort of help people overcome?
Oh, absolutely right. So VALR is one of Africa's largest cryptocurrency exchanges, right? Based in South Africa. We serve both retail and institutional clients and offer a wider range of trading pairs with deep liquidity, right? But what sets VALR apart is our mission, right? We're working towards a frictionless financial world, right? That's our guiding light, right? Our unique selling point, I would say, is threefolded, right? Product excellence, right? We're obsessed with building innovative tools that users love, right? From our mobile app to our crypto product offering to our pro trading platform, right? That experience is seamless, right? Our security and compliance, right? We take proactive approach to compliance, not just reacting to regulations, but helping shape them as well, right? And the third thing, our customer first approach, right? We genuinely care about helping our users succeed, right? Whether that's through support, our fair trading fees, our app ratings on Play Store, and our app stores, our rating says it all, right? We have a 4.7 out of 5 star rating, which proves our customer first approach, right? So, yeah, but as for where we operate, well, we're headquartered in South Africa, like I mentioned, but our outlook is global, right? So while we currently serve users in select international markets, we're actively expanding our retail footprint to support broader growth.
Okay, it sounds like a very exciting time for you guys as well. I know there's a lot of work that has kind of gone in over the years to sort of get VALR where they are right now. What are some of the big trends that you would see in the crypto market, and what are sort of the challenges that you are helping your customers overcome, would you say?
Oh, thank you, Chris. So regulation is front and center, right? Especially here in South Africa, right? In fact, recently saw a travel rule come into effect, right? Literally a month ago, right? On the 30th of April, right? So just for the listeners, travel rule is a global regulatory requirement that mandates crypto platforms to share key sender and receiver information, right? For certain transactions to help combat financial crime similar to what traditional banking is doing currently, right? So the challenge is that different vendors use different travel protocols, right? And they don't always speak to each other, right, which creates a serious interoperability issues. So we're actively working on how to fulfill our obligations while still keep things smooth for the user and client, right? Another trend, obviously, is the explosion of new cryptocurrency, right? So every day there's a new project being launched in the crypto space, right? Our challenge is making sure we list quality crypto assets that are safe for our users as well, right? We've all seen the pump and dumps, right? Projects that skyrocket and crash overnight. So we work hard to find the right balance, keeping up with the market narratives while protecting our customers from unnecessary risk, right? And then lastly, honestly, I would say global expansion, right? For any business or any crypto exchange, right? We want to serve users around the world, but to do that responsibly, we have to acquire licenses in different jurisdictions and make sure onboarding is airtight, right? So that actually is one of the reasons our partnership with Veriff is also important, right? Veriff has that global reach, right? Veriff understand what's valid and what's not in dozens of ID formats, and that gives us the confidence as we scale to become a global cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah, that's great. I think thank you for that. And I think let's talk about that partnership with Veriff a little bit more there, because I think that's the. I mean, you sort of touched on one of the aspects to this partnership, I suppose, which is the being able to onboard customers globally, no matter where they are. So in the jurisdictions that you operate, what are some of the other challenges that you were looking to solve when you first partnered with Veriff? Let's explore that first, 'cause I think there were probably numerous things that I think were came out from your last answer there, actually. So the global piece being one of them, but what are some of the other things that in there that sort of drove you, if you like, to sort of seek out a solution like Veriff?
Oh, 100%. So when we partnered with Veriff, right, we weren't just choosing a vendor, right? We were choosing a strategic partner that could grow with us, right? At the time, we were scaling aggressively, right? We had to find a provider that could meet compliance requirements without slowing the business down, right? So I'll even give you three positions on this, right? So the user experience, right, that we needed to make sure the tool we're bringing had that user experience, right? We were very intentional about wanting an onboarding process that wasn't just compliant but also user friendly, right? So Veriff user interface is clean, clear, and optimized for both mobile and desktop, right? You'd be surprised how many providers miss the mark on that, right? People are mostly signing up on their phones, especially in emerging markets, right? But it's just as important to offer a smooth experience on desktop for users who prefer that route, right? So Veriff manages to deliver that consistency across both, which is a big win for us, right? And also, what we loved of on Veriff is how it guides the user as well, right? Tells them that to adjust the lighting, recommends the camera angles, flags issues in real time, right? So it's literally a part of our customer support facing front, right? To some perspective, right? So all of this reduces user frustration and abandonment. We saw a real drop actually in KYC drop-offs after we switched to Veriff, right? And that's a win, not just for compliance but for acquisition too, right? And for the second part of things, right, you can imagine from a technology perspective, right, we needed something intelligent and constantly evolving, right? So from what we've seen so far with the various OCR engine, is it's not just fast, it's also learning, right? As we service individuals from different countries, the Veriff tool handles hundreds of ID types, right? Recognizes even slightly damaged worn documents and flags anomalies that would take a human several minutes to detect, right? Plus, let's be honest, right? From a fraud perspective, fraud has definitely evolved, right? You now have AI generated documents, fake biometrics, deep fakes. We're seeing it all these days, right? So with the Veriff tool, the liveness detections and then biometric matching, you can imagine how this helps keep VALR ahead of the curve, right? It doesn't just look at face; it evaluates the texture, the blinking, the lightning, all in a matter of seconds, right? This gives us peace of mind that real humans are actually signing up, right? Real humans are behind the mobile device or the laptop, right? And then lastly, like I mentioned in the beginning, right, from a global reach perspective, right, as we grow into new markets, right, Veriff is a critical ally, right? A big pain point for African exchanges like us is document diversity, right? So we see a lot of IDs from different African countries, your Nigeria, your Kenya, your Zimbabwe, right? And many global KYC vendors struggle with recognizing them, right? And luckily, Veriff doesn't struggle from that aspect, right? So Veriff's coverages across emerging markets has definitely been a game changer, right? This gives us confidence to expand globally, right? Knowing we're not going to choke our onboarding funnel due to document compatibility, right? And more importantly, we can stay on the right side of the regulators in each country because we're collecting what matters correctly.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I think that I mean, obviously you touched on an awful lot there, and I think we'll probably spend the rest of this episode unpacking some of that, because I think there are Oh, there's obviously a fraud prevention angle to it. There's obviously a compliance, angle to it as well. I think maybe the least obvious of those is the customer acquisition piece, and sort of making it as easy as possible for people to onboard and get investing with your platform and so on, because it's that's the thing that you want people to do ultimately, and the speed to value is such an important part of that. So we'll get to that in a moment. I think just from a purely sort of practical point, technological point of view, if you like, how sort of easy was it to implement Veriff and sort of get it started in the first place? I know you were sort of involved in that project, and getting Veriff working alongside your existing infrastructure, if you like, and building it into the workflows that you already have. How easy was that process? Just describe that to me. I think that would be quite useful for the people listening.
Oh, no problem. So honestly, any tech migration comes with risk, right? There's always a chance things could break, timelines can stretch, and integration pain points can slow you down, right? As a business, right? So it requires solid planning and real collaboration between technical teams on both sides, right? So that said, working with Veriff was actually a smooth experience, right? The implementation was quick. We were up and running within days, right? There was strong support from your team throughout as well, right? And the API documentation was clear, which made that integration straightforward for developers, right? What really impressed us as well was how well the system handled the volumes, right? Especially during high sign-up periods, right? If I remember correctly, it was around the festive season when we first partnered with Veriff, right? People were on holiday. The markets were buzzing, and then Bitcoin was trying to break above the $20,000 mark again for the first time since the 2017 rally. So there was a lot of hype and activity in the crypto space at the time, right? So despite that surge in signups, Veriff didn't skip a beat, right? The tool scaled effortlessly, handled the concurrency, and allowed us to keep the onboarding sprint smooth and fast, right? Which is crucial in crypto, right? Where users want to, they want in now, right? They want to have that account now, not in 24 hours, right? So from a migration perspective, it was one of the smoother projects that we've had, and Veriff came through strong.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. And tell me a little bit more about that. I mean, I'm really, really keen to dig into that. It's come up a couple of times already. This, how smooth the onboarding process is, and I think it's. Can you just describe for me then the role that Veriff plays in VALR's customer onboarding process, and it's with particular reference to the sort of the compliance piece, but more so, I guess, around that sort of customer experience type angle as well.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, so Veriff plays a massive role, right? It's absolutely central to our onboarding and compliance workflows, right? So from a compliance standpoint, right, everything starts with customer due diligence, right? CDD, right? That's where we lay the foundation of trust, right? It begins with proper KYC, collecting a valid identity document, checking that it hasn't expired, verifying its authenticity, right, and confirming that the person submitting the document is the rightful holder, right? So Veriff enables us to do all of that efficiently and in full alignment with regulatory expectations as well, right, including those from the Financial Intelligence Center here in South Africa, right? So the tool ensures that we gather the right data points, validate them properly, and then maintain a full audit trail for every onboarding session, right? Which is critical when regulators come knocking at the door, right? Whether it's an audit and they want samples of the KYC, right? How did you verify these clients, right? But it's not just about ticking those boxes as well, right? It's about doing it at scale at the same time. We are a business at the end of the day, right? We still have that expectation of growth, right? So we want to do that without sacrificing the user experience, right? The Veriff has helped us strike that balance, right? So the flow is intuitive, mobile and desktop friendly, and guides users through the process, right, with the clear step-by-step instructions on how to verify your identity document, right? It reduces that friction while giving us the assurance we need that only legitimate users are entering our ecosystem, right? And lastly, that reliability as well, right? Is what allows us to focus on other key areas where compliance is involved, right? Like transaction monitoring, investigations, and ongoing risk assessment, right? Knowing that the front door is secure and the Veriff tool is doing its job.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's a really good point that you've sort of teased out there. Actually, is that and I think we fully acknowledge this at Veriff too, that there's fraud and sort of the compliance angle these days as well. It takes it exists in a number of different ways, and there's a number of different sort of threat vectors out there. The more comprehensive your solutions, the better protected you're going to be. And I think Veriff offers, as you say, something at that very first moment of onboarding a brand new customer, and sort of the regular logins after that. But there are other things too that work alongside this, the transaction monitoring and sort of looking for suspicious patterns and so on, that I think is also actually critical to this wider sort of fraud prevention piece, I would say, as well. So that's great to know. That's a very thorough answer there. So tell us a little bit around how Veriff has helped sort of streamline the customer onboarding journey. I think maybe it might be good to reference sort of what was happening before. I mean, the sort of the timelines that were involved and how quickly you need to get that customer into your system in order to get them investing and doing the things that they want to do.
Oh yeah, and thank you for mentioning the timeline, right? So, actually, at VALR, our goal has always been to remove as much friction as possible from the onboarding journey, right? Especially given the fast-paced nature of crypto, right? So, we wanted a partner that could align with our internal benchmark of getting users verified in under 5 minutes, and with Veriff, we've been able to achieve that consistently, right? So, what stands out is how seamless and intuitive the process is, right? The user interface, both desktop and mobile, it's clean, responsive, and the instructions are crystal clear, right? From a Veriff tool perspective, the whole journey feels like the user is being handheld in the best way possible, right? From selfie positioning to lightning tips and document guidance. The level of detail makes a huge difference in minimizing abandonment, right? Users tend to give up when they see that, hey, look, I'm trying to submit my document, but it seems that nothing's working, and I've tried multiple attempts. That makes them go to the competitors instead. And from a back office point of view, the speed and accuracy of Veriff's OCR and backend systems have really helped us move faster, right? Which is critical when you're onboarding thousands of users across a different region, right? It reduces the friction for the user. It also makes things smoother for our internal teams as well, right? Ultimately, it's helped us strike that perfect balance, right? Between compliance, security, and user experience, which is no small feat in this industry, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think, and that's that. I mean, I do a lot of these sort of conversations with customers like yourself and with partners of ours. One of the things that always strikes me is where that line is, the balance between fraud prevention, between compliance, between customer experience, because you have to give a little bit, I think, to move these up and move the needle on all three, don't you? And I think that the ideal scenario is something that ticks as many of those boxes as possible across those three regions, I suppose. So one thing I am really interested in, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, is the scale angle to all of this, I suppose. So, how does Vera support Valet in maintaining sort of robust compliance and all of the processes you have there, plus your fraud prevention? And how do you see that happening as you scale and get bigger and grow as an organization?
Oh, 100% right, and that's massive for us as well, right? In today's world, and I'll speak from a fraud perspective and compliance perspective, right? In today's world, we're not just dealing with the typical fraudsters, right, or potential money launderers, right, anymore, right? Things are forever evolving, right? So we're now dealing with sophisticated tech-enabled threats, right? AI-generated fake documents, deep fakes, synthetic identities, and identity theft are becoming more common, right? Data is being sold on darknet markets like every day, right? You're always hearing this on the news of data breaches with the companies handling data, right? So fraud has evolved, and we've had to evolve with it, right? So from a fraud perspective, the fraud tool gives us the kind of layered intelligence defense system we need, right? It's not just about flagging a mismatched selfie or the document is blurry, right? It's not just only about that. It's about detecting a subtle manipulation in a document, right? Spotting the document tampering and picking up on inconsistencies that a human might miss, right? The fact that Veriff tool can detect these anomalies in real time gives us a lot more confidence in our onboarding process, right? Gives us that advantage as well, right, over the potential bad actors, right? And from a compliance and investigation standpoint, which is my day to day, this is critical, right? We're able to trace patterns, investigate suspicious activities quickly, and pull verified data when we need to escalate a case, right? It's not just a yes no decision engine. It's a system that strengthens our internal controls as well, right? Supports our monitoring efforts and give us evidence we can stand behind during audits or investigations as well, right? So at the end of the day, it's about trust, right? Veriff helps us keep the bad actors off the platform, protect our users, preserve our brand reputation, and demonstrate to regulators that we take identity verification and financial crime very seriously, right? That's a win across the board, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm very glad you used the word trust there because that's something that's comes up, with a lot of these conversations that I have, and is obviously central to what Veriff does. Really, I mean, our mission statement really is to restore trust to the internet, and that's one of the things we obviously work with folks like yourselves to do. Obviously, crypto is a very high trust industry itself, right? I mean, it's one of those things that you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation. There's it's sometimes in the news for negative reasons. If there's sort of pump and dump schemes and things like that, which we make the news and can be off-putting for folks around that sort of world, I suppose. It's interesting for me because this ties in with some research that we did last year actually, where we sort of interviewed thousands of what we call end users, so customers of yours, effectively, who are out there in the world, how they interact with financial services platforms and the digital world in which they live. One of the questions we put to them was, do you consider a company's record on fraud prevention when signing up to a new service? And we found that it was up in the sort of the high 80% that people do that, especially when it comes to financial services and crypto. How important is it, do you think, for your users to feel confident in the identity verification process? And how do you think it sort of builds trust between you and them?
Yeah, I understand, right? So it's absolutely critical, right? So in crypto, trust is the currency, right? Before people move money, they need to trust the platform they're using is secure, compliant, and incredible, right? When a user signs up to a crypto exchange, they're not just uploading an ID, right? They're putting faith in you to safeguard their identity as well, right? Their funds, their personal data, right? They need to have that feeling that their data won't be breached as well. Their data won't be sold, right? If the identity process feels clunky, invasive, or worse in the beginning stages, right? If it feels like their data could be compromised, their trust gets broken before the relationship even starts, right? So, and that's something we take very seriously at VALR, right? So that's why it's important for our users to know that we've partnered with well-known companies like Veriff, right? A provider that shares our values around privacy, security, and transparency, right? We want users to feel reassured that their documents are protected, the information isn't being sold or misused, right? And we've got real safeguards in place to keep fraudsters out as well at the same time, right? So it sends a clear message: you're safe here at VALR, right? And we're doing our part to keep it that way.
We touched a couple of times on sort of customer acquisition and sort of the scale of it and things like that. I just want to explore the sort of the practicalities, I suppose, of what that looks like. You mentioned in sort of conversations that we've had before around how Veriff can support VALR when you run large scale customer acquisition campaigns, when you're trying to actively get more users into your platform for certain times a year or around certain events and things like that. Do you just want to give me a sort of a run through of how that process works? I mean, specifically kind of how you would notify Veriff this is happening, or sort of what's the process there that you would run through, and how does Veriff support you when you do these very targeted customer acquisition campaigns?
Yeah, absolutely right. So we've run some massive growth campaigns at VALR, right? And you can imagine we have that exponential growth at VALR, right? That's always our aim, right? So we've run campaigns, things like referral programs, giveaway initiatives, and trading competitions as well, right? And each one has driven tens of thousands of users to the platform in a short space of time, right? That kind of surge could easily overwhelm a weak onboarding system, right? If you're realistically speaking, right? But with the Veriff tool, we've had no such concerns, which is good, right? It shows how effective the Veriff tool is, right? The infrastructure scales effortlessly, right? So whether we're seeing a few hundred signups or thousands in a day, the tool does hold up, right? That gives our marketing and growth teams the confidence to go full throttle, right? No second guessing, no delays. They know the verification process won't be a bottleneck, right? They can continuously push these campaigns over and over again, right? So with various OCR technology as well, it plays a big role here, right? It's fast, accurate, and intelligent. It's able to detect the suspicious sessions early and prevent bad actors from getting through the cracks, right? At the same time, the legitimate users are guided through a smooth, intuitive process that doesn't frustrate or confuse them, right? So, from a growth perspective, right, the Veriff tool has helped us move fast without compromising on security. And in crypto, that balances everything, right?
Yeah, that's such a key point. I think again, it sort of comes back to that balance, doesn't it? But I think you've sort of hit on there. Maybe the sort of the benefit, maybe not unintended. That's the wrong word. Maybe sort of the maybe the unseen benefit, I suppose, of partnering with somebody like Veriff here, because it comes down to a little bit, I guess, of sort of your internal teams, doesn't it? And how you operate with each other. You mentioned your marketing team there would be the ones that would be responsible for driving these customer acquisition campaigns, and they need to have the confidence that your team is able to sort of be set up to deal with this massive influx of new customers that are coming in, doesn't it? So there's a real sort of joined up sort of feeling to all of this, I suppose. How would you say that working with Veriff has improved that kind of your internal team's efficiency and focus? Because I think that's a really, we often, most of what we've talked about here is the external stuff, how we can attract new customers, how we can fight fraud and that kind of thing, fraud which comes externally as well. But what about the internal piece? How does it work on a sort of an efficiency and focus type angle, would you say?
Oh, yeah, 100%, right? So a good tool isn't just for the user, right? It's also for the people behind the scenes as well, right? Like you mentioned, right? So Veriff has helped us become more efficient across the board, right? From multiple teams, and I'll just give an example of 4 teams, right? Our onboarding team, right? So before Veriff, a lot of time went into reviewing straightforward ID submissions, right? That was inefficient, you can imagine, right? So with the Veriff tool, the team only gets involved when something is flagged, high risk regions, unclear documents, edge cases, right? So that shift has reduced burnout and improved the turnaround times as well, right? And because everything is well documented and timestamped, it also creates a clear audit trail, which again is gold when regulators ask questions, right? From our fraud team as well, right? Fraudsters don't sleep. You can imagine, right? The bad actors are constantly trying to get in, right? So if they don't sleep, we can't sleep as well, right? So with the Veriff tool, it gives our fraud team that edge, right? From the liveness scores it provides us with, the document tamper detection, and even the risk triggers, right? Informing us on what we need to investigate specifically, right? We've seen cases where the same fraudster literally has tried to onboard using 3 different identities from the same device, right? The Veriff tool flagged it, right? And we caught it before the client or the fraudster could even get approved to get an account, which you can imagine how that even saves us, right? It saves us on chargebacks, reputational damage, and more. And importantly, it keeps honest users safe as well, right? Then, like I mentioned, with our marketing team as well, right? When you run a big campaign, you don't want your onboarding system to fall apart under load, right? We've run referral campaigns and trading competitions. We've had thousands of signups in literally one day, right? So the Veriff tools scaled effortlessly, right? So the stability gives us our growth and marketing team the confidence to go big on those advertisements for VALR, right? On those campaigns, right? So better insights as well, right? Veriff does give us those insights where we're able to segment KYC data by region, right? Helps us run smarter campaigns. We know where conversion is strong, where users are dropping off, and how to tweak those flows as well, right? And then lastly, from my side, the compliance team, right? So Veriff has really strengthened our compliance posture as well, right? Everything is time-stamped. The images on onboarding sessions are crystal clear, right? The decisions are traceable. PIP and sanction checks are done as well at onboarding, right? That makes it easy for us to build a suspicious reports as well, respond to regulatory requests, and prove we're not just ticking boxes, we're applying real judgment, right? So whether it's an internal audit or inspection by the Financial Intelligence Center and other regulatory bodies, we're ready, right? So Veriff has helped us move from reactive compliance to proactive compliance, right? And that's a mindset shift, specifically in the crypto industry.
I love that. I love that phrase, proactive compliance. I think that's a really. I mean, I think quite often financial services is sort of guilty of treating compliance like a box ticking exercise, and these are things we have to do, right? But I think the approach that you guys take is really proactive, really forward thinking, and using compliance as a wider part of a joined up strategy around customer acquisition and growth. I think that you're tying it all together. I think that's a really sort of formidable way of working, actually, and I think certainly what sets you apart in your industry for sure. What do you think a sort of successful partnership sort of looks like to you when you're looking at a vendor like Veriff, and sort of how has Veriff met those expectations, as you say? I mean, we've covered a lot of ground today in terms of how you're using it and some of the benefits, I suppose. But if you were to evaluate things, what would be your sort of your takeaway there, do you think?
So a successful partnership to me is built on shared goals, right? Continuous feedback and real collaboration, right? So VALR is on a mission to expand globally, and Veriff has been right there with us over the 3 years, right? That we've been in partnership with Veriff, right? Veriff is not just a vendor, right? The way we see things, but as a true partner walking that journey alongside us, right? It's about mutual growth. As our user base scales and our regulatory obligations evolve, we're constantly testing the limits of the tool that we use as well, right? And Veriff has proven adaptable, responsive, and committed, right? We've made requests, we've pushed back where needed, and Veriff has responded every time, right? With improvements, upgrades, and new features that show you're listening and evolving, right? That kind of feedback loop is critical in compliance and onboarding, where the stakes are high and the environment is always changing, right? But honestly, it's not just about the technology, right? I also believe it's the people behind it, right? The Veriff support team has been exceptional, right? So whether it's a quick turnaround times on an issue, walking us through a feature update, or just being available when we need clarity, right? That responsiveness builds trust, right? We've never felt like we're left hanging, and there's that's rare in the space, right? So yes, Veriff has not only met our expectations, right? Veriff has exceeded them, right? What we have is not just a vendor-client relationship; it's a partnership in the truest sense, right? And as we continue to grow and enter new markets and new regions, we're confident that Veriff will keep scaling with us as well.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I think I'll certainly pass on the plaudits to my colleagues in the team teams that work with you, because that's such a key part, I think, of what Veriff is and the mission here. We really like to say that we sort of we want to grow with our customers. It's sort of there's a element of self interest here, because when you guys grow, we grow as well, and that's all the way that the ecosystem works. But it's how I think taking a bigger picture on sort of fraud prevention and compliance and those type of subjects. It's how I think everybody improves, is when we sort of work together. You guys are seeing things on the front line of fraud prevention and compliance that feeds into what we do, and that helps us protect you in the future with these types of things too. So So that constant feedback loop is so critical, I think, to any of these sorts of partnerships. And I'm really pleased to hear you say that that it works really well with Veriff. I'm sort of a bit conscious of time. I know I just want to sort of wrap up with kind of a future-looking question, I suppose. What can we expect to see from VALR as we move through the rest of this year, 2025, and beyond? What's kind of on your roadmap, and how do you see sort of Veriff helping you achieve some of those goals?
Honestly, more crypto assets, right? From a value perspective, more crypto assets, more building of products, right? Deeper liquidity, competitive trading fees, right? We do want to expand globally, right? So want to do so where users feel like they can come to VALR and feel like the fees are amazing, right? This is the place to be, right? So more trading competitions, more referral campaigns, improved user interfaces, and more features, right? Stronger security. Want to do everything, right? That's the whole aim of growth, right? But we're continuously striving to be an industry leader. That's very important, right? It's not just being a great crypto exchange, but by continuing our mission of driving the world towards a more frictionless financial future, right? So those are main aims. And honestly, if Veriff continues being on this journey with us, we would love to see how you guys are also going to grow as well, right? So just going back to that continued partnership and seeing both of us thrive, that'll be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great to hear, and I think there's some very exciting times ahead. And I think that probably it's worth us touching base again in 6 months or a year or so, because I think some of those plans will come to fruition, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more for us to talk about. We've explored so many subjects today. I think we could have gone on for another hour or so. So it's probably worth us talking again at some point in the future, Teddy. So let's wrap things up there. As I say, that we are sort of around about time. So stands to, just for me to say, Teddy, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a really insightful conversation. As I say, we covered 100 different subjects, I think, and all in plenty of detail as well. So you've been a great guest. Thanks very much, Teddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you again, Chris, for having me. Right? This has been a fantastic session. And look to everyone listening, right? Take the step, right? Come and experience VALR for yourself.
Yeah, I like that. Getting that sales pitch in at the end. I like it. Teddy, well done. Thanks very much. And thanks very much for listening, everybody. This podcast is brought to you by Veriff. Identity verification made simple. Learn more at veriff.com.